mics around. Welcome back, everybody. Hey, Tom. Let me see here. Taylor, welcome, welcome. We are here again for another Friday. I hope everybody's having a good week so far. And pass some mics out, and a lot is happening. Um, but it's a good day. It's a good day. I'm feeling better. I hope that everybody out there is feeling decent today or better. A lot of nasty things flying around out there, viruses and stuff. Please stay safe. But thank you for your patience. And we weren't here last week. I appreciate you guys coming to hear us today. And I'm passing a couple more mics out real fast. Rob, I'm getting you. I'm trying to get them to you. But Salma, what's going on? Anyone wanna save me for a minute? My-
Yes, happy Friday, everyone. So this week we're going to be keeping it nice and short. We'll be covering a few things around Apple Vision Pro, ChatGPT, potential monetization, and we're also going to be talking about AI marketing campaigns. I know Taylor has a few things to say around that, and then also we'll be talking a little bit about I'll be talking a little bit about the creative workflows with GPT. So a few things on the list. And yeah.
Thank you. That was perfect timing. I appreciate that. So yeah, thank you. We decided that today we're going to keep it shorter. We're going to try something new. And even though you all love spending several hours with us every Friday, we're going to try to do this in 1 hour and see how that works, if we can kind of get through things. So bear with us as we do a little bit more streamlined and cover the top. There's just so much to talk about. It's hard to kind of keep up with everything, so we're just going to try to cover what we can. Please use the chat in the bottom. Make sure you go ahead and plug yourself, drop any links in there. If people have questions, put the questions in there. If you see somebody that has a question in there and you can answer it, please feel free to do that, so we can have that as our like living document there. So please go ahead and make sure you show some love with emojis. I appreciate seeing that. I'm glad everybody can hear me today. I appreciate this, just knowing what's going on. If you like something that you hear, just show some love with the emojis, with that heart at the bottom of your screen. If you're on your phone, I don't know if you can do it on the desktop yet, but can you? Yeah. Oh, okay.
I think you can.
Oh,
I think you can, or at least I've seen them working.
yeah. I'm
So
still on my
give us
phone.
all the emojis, you
Yeah.
guys.
Yeah, I'm scared to try. I'm still on my phone hosting it. So eventually, though, I would love to do a live stream, so we can figure out who's been doing that, give us some tips on that. But to start out, we're talking to, let me see, Bilal, you want to tell us about the Vision Pro?
Let's do it.
Yeah.
Let's do it. And in the interest of short and sweet, I mean, I think this week is going to be a big one for AR VR, which obviously Apple has been calling spatial computing, and an exciting time indeed. This is Apple's, kind of major, kind of product category that they've rolled out, obviously since the passing of Steve Jobs. And so it's going to be indeed very exciting. Obviously, we've seen the Apple Watch and all that stuff, but really the seeds of that were sown a long time ago. And now we have something that is going to hopefully change how we interact with computers, starting off with a really, really expensive headset. So this morning, a bunch of folks, such as myself, got up at 7 a.m. Central time for me, 5 a.m. Pacific time for many folks, and got in our pre-orders for the Apple Vision Pro. This is very much a high-end device at the moment, right? We're talking $3,500 at least. You're going very much north of $4,000 if you're trying to get, obviously the higher storage variants. But really, how you should think about this device is sort of like the Tesla Roadster of AR VR headsets. So obviously Apple's vision, Tim Cook has talked about augmented reality as sort of the North Star for them, for many other companies. And this is sort of a stepping stone on that journey. So it effectively looks like a VR headset, but it has 12 cameras and two depth sensors basically to pass through under like 12 millisecond latency the reality that you see through your headset. And now, once you've modeled kind of reality and you've got it all digitized, you can do pretty much anything. So, all those crazy augmented reality apps you see in science fiction movies absolutely realize it. But in terms of experiences, they're focusing on really like media consumption. This is like a very high end sort of living room consumption device, hanging out with your friends, watching some media, playing board games. So I think it's going to be a very exciting time indeed. And perhaps I'll wrap things up by talking a little bit about the controversy, right? So Apple's entering this amazing, amazing market. But at the same time, you would think just like with iOS, you would have all the flagship third party apps sort of featured on the first day. That is not the case. There are some notable absences, and I just pinned the post about this. Namely, Netflix, YouTube, and Spotify has said that for the foreseeable future, they do not plan to make their apps available on the Vision Pro. Now, of course, you can access the 2D version of these things on through a browser, but there will be no dedicated apps coming out. And I think this begs the question, are we going to see overlapping metaverses, right? This is going to be very much like the iOS and Android story where we've got these sort of fragmented platforms. Inevitably, it ends up being like two or three really that end up having a lion's share of the market. So it'll be interesting to see how this plays out. But the battle lines are very much drawn because, YouTube VR is one of the top apps on the Oculus Quest. It has been for the last few years. And so obviously you're not going to have that on the Apple device, but there's a bunch of other third party applications. And so, fast forward a little bit, perhaps we'll see a similar future to what we see today. Once Apple goes from, kind of their very high end Tesla Roadster to a Model 3 and really has an install base that's substantial, perhaps a bunch of these other players will have no choice but to not be able to ignore Apple and jump into this market. But I would say, indeed, a very exciting day for spatial computing. A lot of pre orders, and expect to see a lot of crazy, really crazy prototypes as folks get their hands on this stuff and start figuring out what can you do with it.
Hey, Bilal, I have two quick questions for you just while we're on the topic.
Sure.
Number one, this does anyone have one yet? Like this was just like pre-orders, right? Does anyone actually have one in hand that, doesn't actually work at Apple? First question. And second question is like what are you personally most excited for in terms of like use cases for this piece of technology? Like what are the top three things that you're really looking forward to?
Totally. Great questions. Yeah. The first one is yes, there have been dev kits out in the wild for a lot of the launch partners that have announced alongside, the Apple Vision Pro. But this is going to be the first time, like, just people at large are going to get their hands on it that don't have dev kits. The second question is a really interesting one. Like, what are the things that I'm most excited about? I think there's a litany of things, but top of mind, honestly, I'll just give you one is immersive video. I got really into VR video back in like 2015, 2014. People were duct taping, GoPro cameras together, Sony cameras together with fisheye lenses. And I mean, just everything has advanced so much since then. If you have like a top of the line Canon camera, you can buy these like dual lens stereo 180 lenses, just a single thing. You snap it on your Canon, you're good to go. There's a litany of 360 cameras available on the market, mostly on the prosumer and lower end, but that's actually really, really, really good. So I'm excited about this whole like spatial media and spatial consumption story. Obviously, the static 3D scanning stuff we've talked about in these Twitter spaces in the past, being able to walk around these environments, spaces, and places you've captured, but also to see how sort of like the developer story progresses. Like Apple, alongside, this last beta of iOS, has rolled out, their spatial media format. This is sort of like an evolution of the sort of the cinematic mode that already exists in the iPhone camera today, where it takes that depth data from just computing it, but also the depth sensors on the and the stereo pair on the camera, and lets you basically add depth of field. But you can use that same depth map for a bunch of other fun stuff too. And so now you can capture spatial videos with your iPhone, right? And that's in beta right now. That's obviously going to go out to developers as well as an API. And so I'm excited to see, more kind of like video 3D formats making a resurgence. And I think that's going to be super exciting because the folks that have tried this headset, and by the way, this has been like perhaps the most tightly controlled rollout of an Apple device. If you go look at The only photos that have really come out of the headset are the ones that like Apple tightly controlled and released with a bunch of tech reporters. And it's all like the almost identical photo where they're like slightly pinching a little bit. That's one of the photos, and then sort of an awe-inspiring reaction. And so, it's like after so much secrecy, this stuff is finally going to hit the wild, and I think it's going to be very exciting to see what the community does with it. But spatial media will be on the top of my list. I am also curious to try out this like FaceTime functionality that they've got. You get your own version of an in quotes persona avatar, and the term neural may or may not have been used alongside their official messaging. So I think everyone's also curious to see what does your photorealistic avatar rendition look like. So a couple of us are talking about, maybe doing a, I don't know, a FaceTime space. Apparently, you can have up to 30 people and see what a 3D hangout looks like.
In combination with this, we've had for the past months Apple training their own small but potent LLM that can run potentially on your phone. And I keep thinking that maybe they're going to be also wanting to put an AI on board into that headset. So we're going to be looking at maybe a rethinking of what is an interface. How do we interact with a device? How do we take something that's a little bit like Siri and then combine it with spatial computing? So now you've got gestures, you've got motion, you've got movement, you've got depth, and you've got an understanding of what the user wants and says. I don't think that the Siri experience alone is very good. You don't have a screen. I also don't feel like, when I have a Meta Quest, um, I don't love every way of interacting with stuff inside the VR environment. Like some of it works really well. Like, hey, I'm playing a fitness game super well, right? Trying to navigate a web browser using like your little handgun controller things, kind of annoying, kind of stressful, right? So I think that they're probably, light years ahead of where many of us are in terms of having been thinking about this problem for a long time. And Apple has a history of making really usable technology. Love it or hate it, they do things that are really like convenient and nice that you'd never think about. For example, like the handoff where I can copy text on my phone and paste it into my Apple computer, and I like it just happens because I'm signed in on the same Apple ID. These little touches, I think, are going to be so critical in terms of having a good user experience. And so, I'm just very bullish for the future here, even though I think it'll probably take a little bit longer for it to maybe catch fire than, let's say, the iPhone did.
Rob, that's such a good point. If I may build on the last point you brought up, just the ecosystem, right? I think a lot of folks, should be asking themselves the question of like, why do I shell out money on the Apple Vision Pro when the frickin' case, just the case for the Apple Vision Pro, is half the price of an actual whole ass headset that you can buy from Meta? And obviously there's jokes about, just the stand for the monitors in the past. So this is very much Apple, but it's really the ecosystem, to Rob's point, right? Like, if you think about it, like, yeah, you get a text or you're inside of VR, like everyone's had that weird experience of like, if you do VR, it's like your pass through is too low resolution, and you kind of awkwardly look from like below, kind of your nose to make sense of what the text is and see if it's worth taking your headset off for. But just having that interoperability, I think, is just going to be in the Apple ecosystem is going to be amazing. And yeah, equally stoked about, the series stuff is cool. Like, gosh, I imagine Twitter is going to be abound with like GPT-4 vision meets like Whisper meets like, some crazy, I don't know what else, primitive kind of prototypes. And I think that's going to be very exciting indeed.
I am curious to find out once the people start wearing it to see if there are going to be similar types of issues that we have when we wear the sets right now, where, I can only do VR for so long until I start to feel nauseous and dizzy and my head hurts and whatever other problems there may be, or, is it going to be worse? Is it going to be better? And, potentially what are even the longer term situation consequences of it. I did see already a meme about it, where somebody had red circles around the eyes of, first day using it.
Right.
Josh,
So
I love this meme too because everyone is talking about the weight as well. And obviously, weight is like, weight is less of a question. It's more about how is it distributed across your head. And but again, yeah, like these are all people do get nauseous if you use VR for more than like an hour, right? Like, and let's see if a $3,500 minimum dollar headset actually reduces those problems. I am equally curious to see this. I know MKBHD, if you go check his Twitter, his consistent observation was like that from like instance one, two, and three of giving it a try, by the third time, the thing that was most noticeable was holy crap, this is very high resolution, and holy crap, this is heavy. So, let's see what happens.
yeah, early reports are that it's quite heavy. There was an interesting study done last year where they had people try and wear some of the most like what was it, the MetaQuest 3, like these devices that were designed for like workers to work in all day, and they forced people to wear them for like 8 hours in a row, and it had all kinds of terrible consequences, ranging from like just being disorienting and heavy and terrible to neck pain to when you get used to seeing things in a certain frame rate and then you go back to the real world, there's like a ghosting that appears because your brain got used to compensating for the lag and it isn't prepared for the real timeness of the world. But Apple's not, positioning this as this is the future of work. They're positioning this as this is a device for certain kinds of experiences. You're not going to be expected to wear one all day long. And I think that that's really important. Like,
But you forget the father cooking breakfast for the kids with the headset on though. What was that? Like,
well, I mean, how are you going to remember the recipe without an Apple Vision Pro on while you're cooking? I mean, seriously.
exactly. iPads. So like that's so 2023. Like we need HMDs for this stuff.
Yeah. So I think that, the weight is obviously an issue, but the improved resolution and frame rate, it will actually probably alleviate some of the disorientation. So I'm excited for the advancements on that front.
I'm low key very excited for when they start, like when you can actually get the full visual of all this amazing AI art also that's floating around Twitter, because it'll be so cool to see like a panoramic of something that you've been able to upscale a bunch of times and really like experience it in person. But also speaking of AI content, I know Blavel, you had a little bit of a video pop off happening over on TikTok. I'm wondering if you can like
Yes.
give us the like rundown of that.
Yes, I'd like to hear. Yeah.
Yes. Absolutely. Yeah. It was 2024 is off to an interesting bang, more on the TikTok side. Um, but yeah, one last point, Taylor, since you did stoke that in my head, is like, oh gosh, like when you were describing seeing the panoramas, I keep thinking about, there's all these prototypes people have of like, what is the right sort of user interface motif to explore latent space and sort of related visual concepts and stuff like that. And whether it's like sort of this spatial exploration of latent space or it's just like sort of a crazy, unlimited, kind of like, mind mapping or mood boarding of what you might do in the Midjourney web app or a Discord for whatever, and kind of laying things out in clusters and like, connecting two images together and kind of multiplying them and doing like all that stuff that you do in command line, being able to see that visually and spatially. I think for a certain type of creator, it's just going to be so freaking freeing, and it's going to be like sort of the equivalent of having your own freaking crazy art studio. So definitely excited about that too. But to pivot back to the video, so it's funny. It's like over New Year's, of course, this is the United States of America, and some hilarious shit has to go down. And so in this case, one of the things that went down is like, 50 cop cars showed up to frickin' Miami, basically like this major mall in Miami. And then suddenly for like a week following that, there was immense speculation online that, like there's some shadow aliens in the midst, etc. And I like decided to spend 3 hours to make just like a meme out of it and just literally duct tape together Midjourney, Magnific upscaling, Runway and Pika for the video stuff, and then an additional video upscaling layer with video AI to add a little bit of shake in After Effects. And a very quick montage, probably took me like 3 or 4 hours tops. And this video blew up and got like, I think it's at 35 million views now, which is kind of crazy. And yeah, it's like it just speaks to this. This is the first video I've had go viral that was like more than not sort of AI generated in a sense, like obviously AI assisted. Like in the past, I've done in painting of elements that I then composite into like real life footage. But then you're just doing traditional After Effects. This was really just like Mid Journey, sort of like the bread and butter sort of creator video workflow, AI creator workflow that you use today. And yeah, worked great. And I think like, Mid Journey V6, especially with the ability to prompt it to sort of really crank down the style and sort of say taken on iPhone and images of 2019 on certain social media platforms gives it that really authentic feel where it's not quite real, but if you squint, it makes you ask the question of if it's real or if it's fake. And so it's perhaps, kind of foreshadowing for like, obviously, and I like my description, if you go check out the videos, like very obviously disclosed as being being fake, but there's still debate, right? Like in the comments over like, oh, this is like either a cover up or like, hey, this is like actually real. There's people who actually do seem to believe that. And it's kind of wild and perhaps foreshadowing for what we've got ahead of us as these tools continue to keep getting better. And we got the elections around the corner. People remember the Zelensky video that was circulated where it's like, hey, please surrender. We're surrendering to the Russians. And it's going to be that on steroids, and not just in the US election, but practically everywhere. Because all of the modalities that you need to sort of create this content that's sort of on the cusp of the real and the unreal is just going to keep getting more and more democratized. So yeah, that's been a fun little experience, and perhaps some foreshadowing for what we have to contend with in 2024.
Were you surprised at how many people were still thinking that it was real? That they thought it was.
Gosh, I mean, yeah, totally. I mean, I think there's still people like so. In reality, what the to put a pin in the actuality of the events, it turned out it was just a bunch of kids with like fireworks that were just like causing mayhem after New Year's, right? But like, there's just given the online landscape, anything that happens, there's always three or four competing narratives that seem to come out, right? And it's like, I don't know, it's like, does that just mean like people will believe absolutely anything? And it does seem like that, right? Like we've got the most advanced technology in the world today. We've literally got like GPS as validation of like, I don't know, like, Einstein's theory of relativity actually working, and, these things circling this like planet that we live on, yet people think the world is flat, right? And so, I don't know. It's like it is surprising, but it's also not, because that's just the world that we live in these days, right? And I think it'll, at least for the foreseeable future, it'll continue to be just as fragmented.
I want to point out something here, which is that this was not just an AI generated thing. Here we have an artist who knows a bunch of different tools, who use judgment to stitch them together to come up with a concept, to add that camera shake, to give it that realism. And I think a lot of critiques about AI art are like, oh, you can just type in a thing and get art, and this isn't a creative process. No way. This was someone who is a master at his craft, who was inspired by a great concept, who then executed across a bunch of different steps. And I think that if you're playing with AI and getting really inspired by the things that you're creating, you should not abandon your workflow when another tool is involved. Yeah, get into Photoshop, get into After Effects, learn these tools. You become so powerful, and you're able to make even more use out of the assets that you're creating with AI. I kind of love that about this. And I think that it wouldn't have been as successful if you just went in Midjourney and said shadow aliens in a mall, and then you went into Runway and said animate this image. Like those little pieces are the difference between a 10,000 view TikTok and a 35 million view TikTok. In addition to a great concept and really like kind of getting the like being in the zeitgeist of the moment. But I think that's where AI art is really going to shine, as creators taking those extra skills and layering them together and creating really amazing things out of it.
Rob, that is extremely well said. And building on that point, like it's like the more we all have the same superpowers, like the way to sort of like it's like the floor and the ceiling rises. I think John Mack when he was on one of these spaces said that. And I think that just so beautifully puts it. Like everyone gets used to the novelty of just the quick solution. And then it really does become of like sort of orchestration and taste and like, and to even to your point about like the 100K versus like the, like the, 10 million video or whatever is so valid. Like if you go look at a couple of videos just before that one, where like when Gen 2 just dropped, when like upscaling was just starting to be more interesting, those videos maxed out at 20, 30K. And then you learn those things. And then, yeah, combine it with like, if you have this vision in your head, you're able to, like, gosh, there was at least like, I don't know, 80 or 90 Mid-Journey generations. And from that, four make the actual cut, right? And then all the other stuff on top of that. And so I think you're totally valid about that. And I think anyone who like actually gets into like AI tools realizes it is indeed just another tool. But I feel like if you, from a distance, just consume this content, you kind of seem to think it's like, like I don't know, like Heather Cooper is or Claire Silver is just like, doing these one-click solutions. But if you go look at their like the shit that they didn't publish, it's so much more massive than the stuff that actually makes the cut. And the stuff that makes the cut, that's all about your artistic vision and curation. So I think that's very well said.
Right. I'll even give a tip for everybody. If you want your Runway ML videos to be 1,000 times better, speed them up. Like extend your clip out to 16 seconds. Usually Runway tends to animate slow. And I'm fine with that slow motion effect, but it's kind of getting old and stale in the timeline. I follow a guy named Dave. I can't think of his last name right now, but black and white photo, bald guy, super creative. He always speeds up his Runway generations, and his videos, they just like, they pop, and the animations look so good, and the footage, it feels awesome. So there, even a little thing like that, bringing it into an editor and just doing it time remapping, or whatever the feature's called in your feature, your application of choice, it can make a big difference. Small things like that.
And perhaps that's a perfect transition to Runway's a new tool that rolled out this week. So yeah, does anyone want to talk about the multi motion brush?
Yeah, I used it. I like it. I like it. I only went with three different types of motion, and I think we have. Did that koi fish with that, but it looks like there's a lot you can do with it. What did you think?
I think more control is better. I think to Rob's point, right? It's like it's like I've always critiqued image to video sort of as like slot machine AI, which is like, you'll kind of re-roll a gazillion times to find those nuggets of gold and start sifting them out. And yeah, this is just another way to sort of condition the machine as it's doing the generation for you. I do have my own like kind of theory. And I will state this is just a theory. I don't know if this is like actually something they're doing, but certainly their toss permits them to do it, which is I think by having a bunch of humans, at some semblance of scale, sort of manually annotating what parts of an image need to be infused with motion and what kinds of motion to infuse them. It might actually make the default image to video better when you just give it an image and expect an automated result. So I think it's going to be a very interesting feedback loop to improve the model too. But yeah, more control, more power, more amazingness. And yeah, some of the results have been amazing just to see online. A
Well,
lot of memes.
out of curiosity, do you use many of the other? When I use it, I don't do much with the other motion controls, the camera controls. Do you do much of like tilting and things like that, or do you just kind of pretty much go with the motion and like the ambient motion?
I like using the camera controls. Yeah, curious what others think. But yeah, zooming in and panning. The tilting has been a hit or miss for me personally, but definitely use the panning and the zooming quite a bit. And yeah, and tend to enjoy it. Yeah, especially for like establishing shots and things like that. It's really a lot of fun.
It's really what separates, I think, the more legitimate looking video from the obviously AI video, is when there is some kind of movement that isn't the default. And so like a panning shot or tracking shot is very cinematic, but it's also unnatural for the AI to do that. The zooming annoys me a little because to me it feels like an actual zoom on a telephoto lens and not like a tracking forward shot. And I wish that the depth was handled a little bit better. That, I don't know if you guys know this, but when you're filming, there's a major difference in the way it looks if you roll the camera on a cart forward, like on a track, versus if you zoom the lens. And I want it to be more tracking and less zoom. But what's really fascinating about the motion brush to me, and I think we're just scratching the surface here, because what happens when you can prompt the motion brush, which is to say, I highlight this section and I tell it where to move, not just like vertical, horizontal, but give it more explicit instructions. This character is dancing. This character is walking. This car is driving fast. This is an explosion. Like some of the really awesome examples of the motion brush, like I'm looking at one right now. It's by Always Editing, which is and it's an anime shot close up of a guy's face, and he's doing a dramatic Western inspired squint by animating eyebrows down, the below the eyelids up, the mouth ambient motion. So painting these different pieces and being able to direct them. Now this looks awesome. It looks like a shot out of like a legit anime. Like you could use this footage right now, but it only works because you can say eyebrows down. Like, it's easy to do a squint. It's like it's very linear. And I think that there's a lot of motion that we wish we could control that isn't so easily described in horizontal, vertical, ambient proximity, right? Like there's other traits that we need to describe these things. So massive step forward, extremely excited about it. But it just leaves me wanting more, which is every time Runway does an update, I'm both thrilled and wanting more.
Oh, hold on. I apologize. I was reading something that Sarah put in there, and Sarah, I wanted to see, did you want to say something about the purple pill? You had a number of AI Pocket family have the honor of their art go to space yesterday. I didn't realize that. So I gotta give you the mic so you can tell us about that. I did not. That's so awesome. I was just reading the DM, but for the motion brush, I think that all these, it is interesting how that's a good idea of what you're saying, how it's maybe we're kind of training the model to do more later on, so that a lot of these they're improving so quickly. It seems like where it seems like they are starting to do a little bit more unnatural or unexpected things without explicitly it changing the motion or the direction for that. But Sarah, go ahead. I'll
Hey,
let you go ahead and
beautiful.
tell us
Long
about
time no hear
that.
and
Awesome.
talk.
Thank you.
Yesterday was a huge day for our entire Web3 digital overlay. We had a number of artists that are in our Pocket family have their artwork take a trip on the Falcon 9 yesterday from SpaceX with a payload to go to the International Space Station. And why this matters, right? First of all, 15-year-old had his photography on on board. All of these are physical pieces of art, and they're coming back down to terra firma to have that digital notary of the blockchain attached to them through our friends at Transient Labs. And I just wanted to point it out because no one else is really talking about it. But this is a huge thing. They've been cultivating AI specifically, and to have AI artists recognized and then also brought up there. I know Amber is one of those folks too, David also, and Mumbot for many of you that know her. It was just a big day yesterday, and I just wanted to tell each and every one of you that we've expanded our horizons, and AI has helped us get there. So it was pretty cool.
Thank you so much for sharing that. That is just such a beautiful story, and it's so wonderful to hear too, and especially after the past year or so, and for people to be able to say yes, it was AI art, and that it mattered enough that it was able to go into space. So bravo to the everybody involved, and thank you so much for letting us know. That's just
I
amazing
was giddy.
how far we've
And the
come.
fact that there's a 15-year-old Dr. Proctor is also someone everybody should follow. She is just a spitfire of a woman, very gifted. But the 15-year-old was the one that I cannot tell you how thrilled I am, not just as a mom or anything else. His dad is in China and could not be in the United States with he and his mother. And the picture that he took is one of the constellations. because he shares the constellations with his dad at night. And they both look up at the same sky. And it's such a powerful message to all of us that we are all humans from the other view, looking back down at Earth, and how we're connected is just such an incredible thing. And it's a great story. And so I hope that each and every one of you, especially the artists that are creating in our listening audience and on the recording, just to capture that awesome and that hope and the, bigger kind of thinking, because it's there. It's just really, really cool.
That is so that man, that's wonderful. Man, thank you so much. Wow. I guess we got to move along. And Rob, I know that you had to leave soon. I don't know if you're available still to talk a little bit about the monetizing the GPTs and how that's been working out. It's a weird transition there. I apologize, but if you're able to, I'd like to hear your take since we did just talk about what to expect in the GPT store last time we were together. Rob, is he around? Okay. No,
Oh, can you
he.
hear me? I
Oh,
just got in my car.
yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah. No, I know you said yeah. Around halfway through, you were gonna be, and I'm like, oh, I guess
Remember?
I missed it. I know. That's what I said. I'm sorry that we were talking about something else, but
All
if
right.
you're able to,
I,
if not, we can switch around.
let's talk about the GPT store. So, as you guys know, I'm a fan of GPTs, although maybe not for the reasons that you would expect. And they opened the doors to their store. What was that, last Monday, something like that? This is a marketplace dynamic where it's a directory, it's a listing, and the most popular things are going to go to the top. So if you're looking to monetize via creating GPTs, you're going to have to learn how to kind of game the system. And I have a lot of experience winning on Amazon. So here's the big initial observations I made from a monetization perspective. First of all, in the different categories, and I think there are like 8 or 9, it's like writing, education, some other things like that. It'll only show you the top X amount of GPTs. You can't scroll indefinitely in these categories. And I think it was something small like 12. Sorry, I don't have my notes in front of me, but so only the top like 12 or 15 or 20 or whatever it is GPTs in any given category are going to be shown. And there's no way to explore beyond that. And in fact, if you type in a keyword and do a search, it's a similar kind of thing where the only like a handful of results are being returned to you, and they're primarily using the activity in those GPTs to populate that. So it's not entirely, sorted based on conversations that people have had with the GPTs. Like I've noticed ones with fewer conversations sometimes get ranked higher than ones with more conversations, but it's kind of like that. It's activity based in some way. So really, really hard to rank in the marketplace right now in the GPT store without some kind of external distribution system that's driving people to your GPTs. If you don't have an email list, if you don't have an audience, if you don't have a way to get eyeballs on your GPT, I would avoid trying to earn money or thinking about when they turn on monetization that you're going to make any money there, because it's almost impossible to discover something new unless you're really, really targeted in terms of how you're bringing things. So overall, I'm a little bit disappointed because I was looking forward to trying to find some awesome GPTs that were maybe underrated, and you can't do that except by kind of typing in random searches, and that gets old fast. The last thing I'll say on the topic of GPTs is that a lot of people are underwhelmed by GPTs, and I'm the opposite, and I'll tell you why. uh, I write my own GPTs for the things that I need to do that I do over and over again. And I think that when you go out and use other people's GPTs, what I've noticed is I'll often use them once or a couple of times, and then I kind of never use them again because they were sort of designed with somebody else in mind, somebody else's challenges, and or I just don't know how to use them very well and get the most value, and so I don't end up getting that value. I would recommend that people focus less on the store and more on their own personal GPTs and what they would really want, the kinds of prompts or the kinds of bots that they would use on a daily, weekly, monthly basis, things that you do over and over again, and focus on kind of building those. and maybe use the things you see in the store as inspiration for that. The caveat here is there's one kind of GPT that's going to really win, I think, and that's the ones where they've integrated an action with a third party service and where it's doing something that you just cannot prompt your way into without having access to that third party service. And so some companies, some people are kind of giving away capabilities, and they're paying out of pocket for those API calls or for the cost of those services in order to win the monetization game on the GPT store. And those things, I think, are going to be really valuable. So that's my take on what's going on there. But curious if you guys have any other thoughts.
That was
Yeah,
a
Rob,
I'll
good.
just
jump
I
in
have a
there
quick
quickly.
question.
Oh,
You know
go
what?
for it.
Actually, okay. I'll go.
yeah,
I'll go.
Yeah.
I'll go. I'll get it out of the way.
yeah, go, go
You
for
kind
it.
of touched on monetization, but and I maybe I missed it. I hope I didn't. But like, has there been anything said about what the monetization for GPT developers and creators actually looks like, or are we still kind of just waiting to figure that out?
No, like very little actual details have been released other than it's planned, it's coming. Please use the GPT store and trust us. It's going to happen. We're going to share with you. We have no idea if the terms are going to be good, or what kinds of volume are going to be needed. I suspect it's going to roll out a little bit like Twitter ad monetization sharing, where they may even do a backfill and kind of give some extra cash to people who have been active in the past to get some of those big paychecks out and get people excited. But right now, we really don't know very much about how they intend to do this.
Go ahead, Bilal. I know you had a question too, or
Yo,
comment.
yeah, I gotta love the race condition. Yeah, so we started talking about this over the chat, but I'm kind of curious. A couple sessions ago, Rob, you talked about how you package up a lot of your knowledge as these sort of like custom, chatbots that you can talk to in, discords that you get access to when you join, say, a paid community. Is GPT a good fit for that, or do you kind of see sort of there being a separate approach to build those type of chatbots that perhaps live in Discord, Slacks, etc.?
Yeah, I mean, there's a big problem right now, which is that GPTs only live in Chat GPT, and not only that, but they can only be used by Chat GPT Pro subscribers right now. So it's a terrible distribution mechanism if you aim to reach an audience that includes people not subscribed to Chat GPT. I now try and make all the prompts in my courses available as GPTs because what I've found is that people are lazy. No, like no offense, I'm lazy too, but if you give somebody a prompt, a lot of times they won't even bother to copy and paste it and use it. But if you give them a GPT, and all they have to do is go and tell the GPT like a little bit of input, they will use it. And so I've been taking advantage of that for my community and with my courses, and I actually have a few courses left to upgrade and add GPTs. But it's also one of the reasons I create also, and this is really time consuming, a Poe bot for every GPT that I create. Because with Poe, you can do 5 Claude 2 uses per day. So if I have like a bot that I think people might want to use free,
Rob, you're going T-Pain on us. At least for me, you are.
Might be out of range in the car, but that's a
if you guys want
that.
to talk for a
Oh, there
minute,
we go. Oh,
we're trying to make this happen while I got to go get my kids from school. So sorry about this, guys. Someone else jump in for a minute.
thank you. Thank you. That was a good point though about Poe. I didn't realize. I didn't even think about that and how they get to 5 uses there. But who's been having luck? Taylor, you just had yours that you
Yes.
posted.
Yes, and I like to echo Rob's point, the almost personal use cases of these GPTs has like bar none been the biggest plus side for me in all of this. Like some of the ones that are in the GPT store fine, like there's one or two that I've like found success with, but like same exact situation where I do it and then I kind of forget about it after a couple chats. So I made a custom GPT that's like a quote unquote like second brain. I actually just posted about it today. So if you guys want to check that out, I'll pin it up in the top. But I wrote up a whole guide for it because I it took me a little over a month to try to really like figure out what pieces of information I needed and what type of content and like how to structure it. And so I had to create like a JSON transformer GPT first. So I threw it all into this guide so that anyone can do this. So I will pin it up at the top. But yes, big ups for all of the like personal use cases where you're automating, you know, workflows that you do all the time. So
Yo, I pinned it for you, but a quick follow-up question there. Have you thought about making a GPT from your Notion doc about how to build a second brain?
I let's just yeah, like GPT infinity loop type of thing. Um, no, I haven't thought about that, but that's a great like idea. So maybe I should throw it in.
Yeah, because it's like, your knowledge management system is sort of like a timeless process, right? Like as you keep building it out, you'll come up with other requirements or needs. And, it's like this place to go and ask these things to. It's fascinating. But your Notion doc looks amazing. I'm just like scroll through it, immaculately freaking formatted, if I may say so myself, and I'm excited to dig in.
Appreciate that. I got a toddler, so I'm gonna go on mute, but I will be back to talk in a second.
Rob, are you available, or Allie? Did you?
Dude, it's like a shitty auto tune filter. It's kind of amazing.
Yeah, yeah, it is pretty cool. Yeah, actually.
Let me buy you a drink.
uh, I'll make this point on our next part.
Perfect. No problem. No, thank you. We're doing pretty good. We got about 10, 12 minutes left. But Ali, did you want to talk about, or Salma, Ali or Salma, about how you've been using the GPTs and the luck you've had? Ali, you said you weren't as impressed with a lot of them.
Yes, and can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear. That's right. You're
Okay, because
driving too.
I'm also in the car, but not in the same car with Rob.
Okay, yeah, that's true. It's a
Different
safe.
place.
Ellie sounds like she's like in a submarine underwater or something. It's totally different vibe. Totally.
Wait,
Cool.
are you? Am I coming across
No,
clear?
no, it's clear. It's clear.
Yeah, we can hear. Yeah, it just sounds
This is
different.
Okay,
my awful
perfect, perfect.
humor. I'll shut up now.
Yeah, hey, I'm in the Colorado's high altitude. I'm not somewhere in the sea level or below sea level. So there's that. So yes, I'm not super excited. I tested quite a lot of different GPTs, and I am running to the same kind of things as already were discussed. I find much use of my own personal GPTs because I have catered them to exactly what I needed to do. So it's very helpful and useful. And then the various things that I've tried random things from SEO to writing to even the Midjourney image or a prompt generator, which actually wasn't too bad, but again, there could be improvements. But then I was just thinking about just now as we were talking that one of the reasons why I think that I am having a difficulty, and I could see that other people have challenges with these chat GPTs, is that we don't really know, even though it says there, start something, say something here, but we are not actually exactly sure how it operates. I mean, it does say in general what it's supposed to do, but, when you have confusion for the customer or the potential user, the harder it is to do the task, and then you don't know what to do, how to fix it potentially. So I think that there's actually some of that in when with my hesitation of it, and then I'm like, well, I don't actually know what I'm supposed to do here, and can I do it better? So I think the documentation would be fantastic if you could give more direct instructions ahead of time for people that are using them, just to make it easier for all users. So that was just something that I just thought about right now. But in general, I'm doing the same thing. I'm just testing it, and then I'm going back to my own, and so there it is. And I'm not personally necessarily looking at monetizing through GPTs either. I'll wait and see, but again, it's not something that is on my radar.
Yeah, I agree with you with that. And that was a good point, what you said, Rob, about how people, if you have a GPT that goes out and interacts with a third party, those do seem to be the ones that are the most effective for me. But also to Ali's point, they, a lot of them, I don't know what they don't do what they say they're going to do, and it's kind of hard to figure out based on the questions that are listed. The prompts are like the suggested things that they have at the beginning on how do you use this tool, and how much time do I have to spend on onboarding even to do a simple task. But I've had a couple things that worked well, but like the in video one, that I was able to successfully make a video from that, but it sends you, you have to go to this website to get the video. And then a couple things where I think they're using Dolly, where like the infographic thing, it said it was going to make me one, but then it said never mind because Dolly was busy. It was too busy, so I couldn't get the infographic. But it gave me a summary of what I could put on there, and of course, if Dolly's creating it, that's not necessarily going to be an accurate infographic. I didn't know how they were going to do that. So there's some interesting things on there, and I like just kind of testing it out. But then again, you can't search more than about 12, like you said, Rob. So if you're looking for different keywords and you're only getting a certain portion of them, you have no idea. You can't tell which ones are really accurate. The number of uses, I guess it is, because it doesn't have likes or anything like that. So there's no reviews. You have no idea how it works. So it's interesting though. Yeah, I think it'll be. I see the number, like the different GPTs keep changing frequently. Which ones are in the top? I mean, there's some that have remained there, but I see like different rankings moving around. Some, it seems like, within the categories. Well, I did want to talk about, let me see, almost getting there to the end. Taylor's, a little bit busy. And Salma, I
Oh, I
wanted
can
you
I
to,
can jump in if we want to talk about Nikki.
yeah, because we were, that was interesting. Nicki Minaj and the
Yes.
AI campaign.
Yes. So I love a good pop culture moment. And so this was like a really good use case of, I think, how community and AI all comes together. And of course, it was a campaign kind of made for Twitter X. And so like the big question is like, is it genius or is it tacky slash lazy? And I kind of saw like a really big dichotomy between both of those sides as this campaign was happening. So for context, Nicki Minaj's new album Pink Friday 2 dropped last Friday, I think it was. And so in the weeks kind of leading up to it, this viral campaign ensued here on X, on Twitter. And so fans of Nicki started creating these like visuals of Nicki's imaginary gag city, which is like this Nicki Minaj utopia, all pink, all basically decked out, very feminine, very cool. And so AI, obviously, perfect fit for that. Super dreamy visuals. You can go look it up by searching the hashtag Gag City if you want. Um, but not everyone loved it. There was a lot of like back and forth. Some haters, of course, naturally, we're in the AI space, so they exist. Um, but some people are like, using AI in your marketing is super lazy and it looks horrible and da 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 da. But then on the other side, it's like this campaign was a viral success. And on Twitter, on X, you find a perfect community of people who are not only huge proponents of this art medium for creating these, but also there's a massive community of it that exists inherently here. So, kind of leveraging both sides of those, naturally, the whole campaign went viral. Lots of images. Like I said, you could search the hashtag. And it's been really interesting to watch and kind of see the like feedback and reactions from it. So
I
I'm
posted
curious what you
several.
think.
I posted several images on
Yes.
that because my son mentioned it to me, and I was like, "What are you talking about?" And then I finally looked, and I was like, "Oh, wow!" And when I looked at the hashtag, and I'm like, I saw the first thing I noticed was all these brands that were already in there, every like huge brands from every sector, like Baskin Robbins, Red Lobster, all the makeup, companies. There were hotels. There was every, the top brands were in there, and they all were
Right.
advertising their Gag City like storefront that they had in there, or their hotel. There was everything. And I'm like, wait a minute, this is, yeah, you're like you said, it's perfect for
It
AI
was
art.
perfect. And yeah, like brands couldn't help but try to get involved in whatever way they could because it was like such a low barrier of entry, but at the same time just, truly like a testament of people love it. They love to see it. They love to engage with it. And of course, naturally, the haters are also around. But I think if anything, like this was a huge campaign that was really close to, our corners of the internet. And so I just found the entire thing to be really interesting and to be kind of a really like fascinating and I would say effective use of community and AI Twitter here. And a conversation that I continue hearing is like AI images are really cool, but like what are they actually good for? And this is kind of a great solution to that question.
Well, couldn't
Um,
you also become like a member of the community? Wasn't there like ID badges or something like that they were
I think so.
like?
Yeah, I think so. Like a
I don't know
fan
how
club.
that worked. Yeah, like where you could actually have your resident ID or your, Gag City, something I saw people posting. I was kind of late to it, but I didn't know. But that is yeah, that was a very powerful tool because if you see that many brands, X was in there. They had like X what is it, business or the one that posts the jobs online here.
Oh, yeah,
They had a couple image, like stores or whatever buildings in there. So that was it was very smart the way they did that.
absolutely. And just to, I think, tie it back to what Bilal and Rob were discussing earlier about like, it's not necessarily just the tool that makes anyone an artist, but like also what you're doing with it. An artist, substitute that with creator, with marketer, with founder, whatever it is. Where there's this campaign wasn't just an arbitrary thing. Like this was very strategically and creatively planned to leverage all of these different channels in such a way that there's this true like unique virality to it. And I think Nikki crushed it with her team, I should say, crushed it with this campaign. And I'm excited to see how more of this stuff kind of like evolves, because I think we're past the point of a brand, and maybe we're not, we're still kind of in the middle, but of a brand just like tweeting or posting into the void pure AI images of things. And so I think that this next phase is like, how are we using these assets in a very creative way that engages people, that really kind of hits the bottom line for all areas of this campaign. So excited to see it.
No, thank you for bringing that up. Yeah, that was a very interesting thing, and I think especially to see the way the brands incorporated it. And I wonder how much AI they use for a lot of those images. And I encourage you guys, please look at it. You'll be amazed at like all the pink cars, and they had like whole landscapes and stuff. And it was very smart the way they did it. So if they weren't using a Midjourney or something like that, they might have definitely been using at least generative fill in Photoshop, because they were top notch, and I was kind of disgusted that I waited too that long to get start throwing some stuff out there. But yeah, Pink Gag City, it's very smart. Nikki's a businesswoman, so I respect that, and I think that was a interesting way, because we heard how musicians were also embracing AI a little bit more, or at least finding ways to use it within their art. So thank you. I wanted to see, here we going. Salma, did you want to talk about your workflow? Let me see.
Yeah.
Your
So
creative workflow.
so with GPTs, similar to Ali, haven't really like built out any custom GPTs yet, but I have been using ChatGPT and DALI to put together creative workflows, or treating it like a creative assistant, mainly like to brainstorm marketing ideas, content ideas, things like that. But I don't know, like I'm still on the fence when it comes to training the custom GPT and monetizing. Although I do feel like um, once there's some sort of documentation, or we have more information around how to actually, not only train but also like how to effectively monetize, I think that would be something I would definitely be looking into.
Well, thank you. And I'm sorry, I was answering a DM real fast, but no, save me somebody, because I forgot what I wanted to say. I'm sorry.
Somebody build Heather an AI DM responder. I think somebody needs to take on this task
I
and
swear I
make it happen.
cannot. I just give up. I cannot multitask. I used to think I was so good at it, and I just cannot do it. I swear, if I look away, I'm
Heather,
totally lost.
you just need an Apple Vision Pro, right? You have your freaking, you'll have your Twitter space right up front. You'll have the DMs to the side, and then you'll have our DMs on the other side, right? Like,
I swear, like, and then when you were talking about it earlier, I was just sitting there thinking, like, maybe I don't need that laptop, so I can go ahead and get a nice NVIDIA graphics card. I'll just get that, but I think I'm gonna stick with the new laptop, but and I will need some help in picking one out that's not $8,000 or something like that, but thank you. And what I wanted to tell everybody about I was able to get the YouTube channel started. I'm so proud of myself that I didn't think I was going to make it this month, but we're all on there for the space. So I appreciate it. Please go ahead and subscribe, everybody. I just launched it basically. I think Monday or Tuesday. I'm not even sure because I'm so tired. But there's it was close to 300. I think it was like 280 subscribers. So I'd really appreciate it if you all could subscribe, and I'd like to be able to start posting more videos about the things that I'm talking about on X and everywhere else, just to have a little bit more of an immersive experience, sort of, to be able to explain a little bit more. But learning a lot and doing a lot with that. So right now I'm posting the full space. I'll probably have it up maybe hopefully by the end of the day tomorrow, and that also helps for us to have a shorter space because I can get that up there much faster. So I've been using FlowGen to create some clips for the spaces, and it's pretty good. AI, these tools are just amazing how they're able to take that transcript and pull out the parts that are pretty good, the things that you want to remember, and then given different like time frames. Some of them, one was like 11 minutes, others were like 38 seconds. So it's a nice mix. And then you can customize it for like a short 9 by 16 for YouTube or TikTok, or you can make it a 16 by 9. You can customize, put a background and everything on there. I like that because I could upload my images and kind of make it into the background of that. You can customize the font and the spacing and all that, the way the little audio visualizer goes. So that's pretty cool. But also just putting the full space, if you want to listen to the entire space, you can do it on here, but you can also do it on YouTube and go ahead and let it play. I'd appreciate that. So we can get some watch minutes up there, and so I can start trying to see if I can qualify for that. That will get me a little bit closer to my goal of eventually being able to be a full-time creator. So that's what my goal is, so that I don't have to keep straddling my 9 to 5 and creating. So it's exciting because I get to use a lot of AI tools. And thank you all for your support in this community. Has been so great. It's just been such a wonderful year to be here. I'm doing that, and then let me look. I'm still trying to multitask. I'm like, what else was I going to say next? I forgot, but that's the main thing there. We had a couple people that were asking for the mic, and I just wanted to mention the AI the Imagine AI Live, that a conference, that it's an AI conference that'll be in Las Vegas in March. And I'd appreciate it, Jessa, if you could put that into the chat if you want to link that. So if anybody is interested in that, it's going to be at the brand new Fontainebleau Hotel that's been renovated out there, or it's new. So I think it's going to be a great opportunity. It's a new type of teaching, mostly businesses how to use AI within their business and the workflow, and how to maximize that. Even like kind of like a personal AI for businesses and for employees, so that you don't lose your um, brain drain, I guess, when people leave. So that it's a lot of interesting concepts. So check that out. And anybody else, what are you all doing? Bilavel's trying to go ahead and blow up on TikTok. That's another thing. I'm also on TikTok. Look for me there. I'm trying to like, since I'm multi-purposing and repurposing things, I'm doing YouTube and TikTok. Why not? So, Bilal, I'd appreciate if you follow me with your almost million followers on there. So let me get a little bit of borrowed credibility. But what's everybody working on? I think Rob dropped off. Ali,
Yes, I'm also everywhere, or will be expanding. It seems like maybe this is the year of the expansion. We're moving.
why
What is the
not? Might
saying?
as well.
Don't put your eggs in one basket of X. I mean, if X is listening, we are all here. We're not going anywhere. Just FYI. Hey, Mr. Beast just posted a video, a full video on X, and it has insane amount of views. It has like 125 million views in 3 days. Crazy numbers. But having said that, I'm also on YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, LinkedIn, and I'm doing more focused effort on putting stuff out everywhere instead just in one place.
Yeah, that's the best point. Yeah, diversify, because we have the ability to do so. And why not? If we can live stream and have it streamed to multiple platforms at one time, why not? Might as well. Taylor, what's up with you?
Yes, diversify your platforms, people. It's very important. And have a newsletter, have a lead generation tactic of some sort if you're trying to grow your account. That way you don't just get stuck to one platform. But I digress. I've been up to kind of a little bit of all the things. I've been really busy with some stuff outside of the internet. So, other than that, I mean, the GPT Second Brain Guide, go pick that up. It's pinned up at the top. If you are a creator, founder, entrepreneur trying to grow your business, I write a newsletter every week featuring news and updates and things happening in both AI but also on social platforms. So go check that out. It's called The Sauce. But that's all with me. Again, thank you for having us here. Every Friday we do this, you guys, if you're stopping by and hearing it for the first time. So be sure to check us out and come hang out on the next one.
That's a good point about the newsletter too, Taylor, because if anybody's wondering, like last year, I didn't have a newsletter or anything like that. And Taylor, thank you for helping me get mine up and running on Substack in March. But I have close to 9,000 subscribers now. But I wasn't, I have the subscribers and I appreciate every single person. But I was thinking, how can I give more? How can I give you some value that you can really use other than just getting your email in there? So there's things that people, if you want to see my workflow and how I'm doing it, that's what I'm going to show, those types of things, and just share my screen basically and show you how I use a lot of tools, because I think we learn from each other, and it might inspire you on how to use a certain tool to do something else even, or to make your productivity a little bit smoother. But let me see, Bilal, what's going on with you? Besides being excited about the Vision Pro?
Yeah, totally. Yeah. So let me just plug. I just put up a video this morning on my second YouTube channel. I'll pin it up right now. Also everywhere, just like everyone mentioned. Yeah, check out my YouTube if you're interested in sort of like longer form versions of like creative technology topics that I dissect on my Twitter. Then you might enjoy it. So, for example, this week's topic is we've been talking about Gaussian splatting. It's going to replace neural radiance fields. Turns out neural radiance fields can still be practical too. So we'll see sort of this dance between various approaches to doing, kind of photorealistic 3D renditions of the real world. And yeah, if you're interested in nerding about that stuff, check it out. Also have a newsletter of the same name, Creative Tech Digest. You can subscribe to it as well. And yeah, that's it for me.
Awesome. You're just no, the second channel. Thank you for letting us know. Salma, what about you?
Yep, speaking of diversification, I'm also going to be creating videos and post them on YouTube, TikTok, and I've neglected my newsletter for a few months now, but I will be sharing more creative workflows, ways to use tools readily available to all of us like GPT, Midjourney, and also dabbling with new things such as Perplexity, and going all the way in with AI. So more on that next week, but I'll definitely be posting more about that next week, and you guys would be soon be able to watch my videos.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, since we're all on these different channels, make sure that and people in the audience too, we got to support each other. Why not make sure we grow together, and or at least try to. We can't catch up to Bilal or Matt or things like that, but we can at least try to do something. So we should be able to support each other enough and try to promote each other somewhat. I don't want to sound like just begging, but I think that there's a lot of people that listen in and that we're going to be on different platforms. And if you're on Facebook, I'm not on Facebook, but maybe somebody is. And if you want, I think somebody said they were going to repost the space, the link for the YouTube video on Facebook, which is awesome. So while we're up here talking, and when we have other people, guests that come up here, we're going to live that. We'll sit there on YouTube also. And I think that's pretty cool. So they'll have the full recording and clips, but we can go ahead and just get some information out there and that people can just come and check it out. And it's also, providing some education for the community, hopefully, and inspiration. But I think that we're doing great. And I know Matt is camping this week. That's why he's not here. And Rob, one thing I think he had to drop off, but he has the Reactor um, app that he had been working on. And I'm not going to even go look at my email to see what that does again. But I already, of course, signed up for the wait list for that. So please go look at Rob Lennon's profile and see what he's been talking about. But it's something that has prompts already built into it. So I'm lazy sometimes, and I'm going to use it. But that support him, and I appreciate all that he has done to help us understand how to build prompts and how to even think about the way that you speak AI. That's so helpful. But we are 6:13. I think we're doing pretty good Eastern time. And I'm going to go ahead and call it a night. And I appreciate everybody coming. And please, information, if you weren't able to get the mic, make sure you put your information into the chat. And we'll go ahead and just start promoting that. So feel free to plug yourself. Everybody, please have a great weekend, and a week ahead. Stay safe with this crazy weather. Stay warm. And if you're somewhere hot, God bless you. Or I'm jealous. But yes, thank you all for coming and hanging out. Make sure you go to my YouTube channel. Please go down there, and you can hear this again. It's still recorded and it's on X, but it'll also be on YouTube. But
Thanks,
thank you.
Heather.
Have a great, thank
Bye.
you.
Happy
Thank you
Friday,
guys.
Bye,
y'all.
everyone.
Cheers.
Bye.
Bye.
Happy Friday. Bye bye.